I want to show you my latest creations. I just finished these up last night, and today is one of the last warmish, bright sunny days that we're going to have here in December before I have to ship all of these off to their recipients as Christmas gifts. And so I just wanted to show you each one of them. The first one that I made was for my daughter-in-law, Rachel, and being the first, I think the disadvantage is that I wasn't quite as proficient as I was when I finished the sixth one, but I think it still turned out pretty good. Now, the advantage of being first was that if things really didn't turn out the way that I hoped they would, and I didn't enjoy doing it, then I may not finish the rest, and so at least Rachel would get hers. But turns out I did enjoy doing it. Not sure when I'll make the next one, probably not anytime soon, but this is the first one that I made. And I'll say just something about the names on these. You could go on somewhere like Etsy or somewhere else and you could buy printed like vinyl peel-off script names to use for projects like this. I didn't want to spend the extra money for that, and so what I did was I painted on the name and then put the rhinestones over the name. And so I used, I think it was Edwardian font at about a 100 or 150 point font, and I printed that out. I cut out a stencil basically from that, taped it onto the cup here, and then painted on the name. You can't really see the paint, but the idea is if you use a color that matches the color of the rhinestones that you're using, then basically the paint supports the color of the rhinestones. And if you do look closely, there are gaps in between all of the different rhinestones, and that paint really makes the color stand out. And so it also, I think, makes the name a lot more crisp and clear and a little bit less pixelated. And so painting on the name before you put on the rhinestones is, I think, a really good idea. You don't need to paint anything else on the cup. I used an acrylic paint. I got a paint set that had lots of colors so I could mix something to get a close approximation. And then I did a Mod Podge over that. The paint itself will wash off pretty easily, but the Mod Podge, it dries clear and it seals on the paint so that it won't wash off. And I did make a few mistakes as I was doing those, so I know for sure that the paint will wash off, but the Mod Podge won't. So that's why I do that. I did paint in, this is a Starbucks reusable cup, and it does have some markings in here, like little boxes and some words. I did make like a light gray that matched the color of the cup. I made a little paint and painted over those so that they don't show through in behind the crystals, and they would. So I didn't do that. I did leave on the nice little stripes that you see on the Starbucks cups. I thought that was kind of a cool effect to have on each one of these. This is the one that I did for Kirsten, and I'll just say a little bit about the beads that I used, or the rhinestones that I used for these. These are Jolin brand. They're the ones that I found were the most sparkly, and when you want to do something that's a little extra like this, you want to have a fancy little coffee cup, the Jolin brand crystals are great. You can buy Swarovski crystals, but I think that cost you about $15 per row, so you don't. So this is a little less expensive, but still really sparkly. And the color that I used is clear crystal. And there's also crystal AB, which I think stands for Aurora Borealis, which is slightly more opaque, but it reflects lots of different colors. I liked this effect the best. They're flatback crystals, which you can glue on. I use this E6000 jewelry and bead glue, but I think others will work. It dries on. It has a little bit of give in the beginning so that you can make corrections, and then it dries on really hard so that you can't break these off. Not very easily, anyway. And I use the size SS20. You just pick kind of a base size that you want to use for your creation, and then you just fill in around that as needed. I used another brand called TechUnite for some of this, especially like the logo that I did. Anytime you need to do a lot of detail work, you need lots of different sizes. TechUnite comes in these little boxes with 6 different sizes. There's not many of each size, so you're not going to do a whole cup with it, but it's for smaller detail work, and it keeps you from having to buy lots of different sizes, big bags of lots of different sizes of each color that you use. So TechUnite, those are pretty sparkly too. I like them. Are all of the beads that you could find out there nice and sparkly? The answer is no. I found ones called Beads brand from, I think it was Hobby Lobby, and they just were very dull. You got a big box for like $15, and it came in like 3 different styles and a few different sizes. Not worth it at all. I should just throw those away. Jollin brand, Jollin, that's the ones to go with. Next, I'll show you the one that I did for Hannah. This is my niece, and this is probably one of my favorite. I think because the accent color that I've chosen, this pink, is actually almost as sparkly as the crystal beads themselves. And so it just really makes for a really nice effect. I think it's really cool. A note whenever you're doing a project like this, what I like to do is what's called the honeycomb approach. And that is whenever you put on your first row of rhinestones, the next row of rhinestones above that, you sort of nest the rhinestone down in between the 2 in the row below it. And so it fills in those gaps pretty well and makes it so that you don't have many gaps. And that lets you pack on the crystals more tightly, which gives you much more sparkle, which is exactly what you want with these. I've seen that some people have said they just like to put on the glue all over and then just start putting the beads down wherever they want. The data analyst in me just really can't do it that way. I have to be a lot more structured in how I do something like this, and so I go 1 row at a time, and I think it works out really well, and just really love this one. Next, I'll show you the one I did for my niece, Micah. And I apologize for the sound of the interstate behind me. I wanted to make sure that I was outside for this because I need the bright sunlight so that you can really see how well these sparkle in the bright light. They sparkle anywhere, but just so much more when you have direct sunlight on them. But so the only good place that I could find where there was a picnic table out in the bright sun, because people are really nice and put picnic tables in the shade, I found this one, and it's right by I-235. So hopefully you can hear me. This one is interesting. This is where I did a little bit of a different kind of embellishment. I wanted to do sort of an ombre effect on this, to sort of gradually go from green to crystal. It didn't quite work out that way. I do like the effect though. I thought it looked kind of like green flames. My son thought it looked a little bit like seaweed, which is kind of cool too, because it kind of goes with the Starbucks logo, the little mermaid. And so she's in the sea, and this is the seaweed coming up. So I think that works out pretty well. So that one is the one that I did for Micah. Next, I'll jump over here and show you this one that I did for my sister-in-law, Jackie. And this one is also one of my favorites. It has this ribbon effect on it like I have for the one I did for Hannah. And I like that. I like that ribbon effect. It just naturally follows the lines of the rhinestones as they move up the cup. And so I really like how that works out. I also like it because it's blue, which is my favorite color. Now, when I decided I was going to start doing this, I messaged each of the girls individually and asked them what their favorite color was. Now, if you ask me what my favorite color is, I will tell you it's blue. It's blue all day long, every day. That's my favorite color. That's not the response that I got from the girls. They said things like, it depends, I don't know, it depends on the day, it depends on the thing, what are you making, what are you doing? They couldn't tell me their favorite color. I had to drag it out of them. It was like pulling teeth. And then I thought, okay, so what would be something else really fancy that a girl might have that she might pick in a particular color? I said, well, what about tennis shoes? What would you like if you had a fancy tennis shoe that, because I didn't want to tell them exactly what I was making. This is a surprise. So I thought maybe tennis shoes. And again, it depends. I don't know. Are they work shoes? Or, one of them said white. I think one of them even said beige. Really? Beige? I'll make you a beige Starbucks cup. Yeah, that sounds really nice. So I finally teased it out of them to give me their favorite colors. Jackie is the only one who said blue, and since blue is my favorite color, this is one of my favorites. Also, I'll point out the logo on here, the Starbucks logo. This is kind of my favorite part of these. A lot of times when I've seen these done online, the makers have left off the logo. And instead, I decided to go ahead and actually do rhinestones on the logo, and I had to end up using what the size, which is SS3, which is 1.4 millimeter rhinestones to do these. Each one of these logos took about 2 hours on their own. I'd say each cup probably took 8, 9, 10 hours to do completely, and the logo itself is about 2 hours. And you just get in that detail work, and when you see the sparkle along with everything else, I think it really helps and really makes it stand out. It makes it even extra special. So that's why I did that. I think it's really good. All total, I've estimated that each one of these cups has about 2,500 rhinestones on them. So all total here, you're looking at about 15,000 rhinestones. Good thing it was fun to do, because it was a lot of work and it took a lot of patience. And finally, I will show you the one I did for my sister-in-law, Deb. This is the only one that I did the name sideways, because it's just it's a smaller name, so I used a bigger font, and I wanted to try it this way, see how it worked out. I think it worked out okay. Deb said her favorite color was red, and so I decided to do something like I did for Micah's. I thought maybe I'd try something that did look more like flames, and so I did red flames on that. I think it turned out pretty well. The red doesn't go as well with the green as some of the other colors do, unless you're thinking like Christmas, it sort of does. But I think it turned out okay. And then I'll also show you some of the lids for these. I also want to point out I did get some metal straws for these. I thought that was kind of important. I'm not really into metal straws. I think plastic is usually fine, but when you're wanting something that has just a little extra bling to it, the metal straw really helps make it stand out. And so I got some of those, and so I'll put one of those with each of the cups, and I think they're really nice. Each one has a slightly different pattern on it. I went ahead and did rhinestones around the rim of the lid, so that took a little bit of extra time. And I just did different patterns on each one of these. So I'll just kind of show you those. That's Hannah's with the pink. I wanted something on this one that just had more of the crystal beads again to make it more sparkly, so I like that one. The one that I did for Deb, I was actually running out of crystals, and I thought, this was last night, and I thought, I can't wait to order more because I have to get these all shipped out. But I was able to balance it out between the red and the clear crystals, and I think it came out with a really good effect, kind of going with that fire effect again. And then finally, this one that I did for Jackie, to kind of go with the ribbon effect on the cup, then the top sort of matches that. I don't know, it almost looks like a record, kind of gives it sort of a 50s vibe also, so I like that. So each one is a little bit different, a little kind of fun. So that's the project I did. It's taken me, I think I started at the end of July, it's now middle of December to finish these. And like I said, I don't know if I'll do another one anytime real soon, but maybe in the future. I might find a different glue to use. That E6000, I've heard complaints that it's kind of toxic when it's wet, not when it's dry. It's supposed to be fine. But to breathe in the fumes while you're making, I think it can be dangerous. So I might try to find a different glue to use in the future. But since I've used that, these rhinestones should all stay on for a really long time. So that's it. I'm going to ship these out, try to get them out by the end of this week so that they arrive on time for Christmas. And I hope that maybe it inspires you. You might enjoy trying to do something like this as well. I hope that my tips will help you to